welcome to District 12.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Hello, everyone. We are back and we are better. This is officially episode 2 of the State of Miami podcast, where we discuss Miami-Dade County's urban development, sustainability, and quality of life. I am your host, Andres Corrales, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Commissioner Jose Pepe Diaz. Thank you so much for being on.
It's good to see you again.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
A long time. Back in the day, I used to play basketball in Rossetti Park, and when he was the mayor of City of Sweetwater, and I used to see him there all the time. I actually showed him a picture of back in the day when I was little. So
later on, you got to put that picture.
Yeah, I gotta show it to them. Thank you again for being on. This is an honor.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Andre.
Yes. So Commissioner Jose Pepe Diaz, he sits on the Miami-Dade County Board of Commissioners. He represents District 12, which is Doral, Sweetwater, Hialeah Gardens, Medley, and Virginia Gardens. And he started his career as councilman in the city of Sweetwater, right?
Yeah, actually, I started before then as an auxiliary officer and worked in Sweetwater, got into the pension board after that, and then I got appointed to office, and then I got elected to office.
That's awesome.
And after that, that's all she wrote. We kept going, and it's been 27 years.
Wow.
And I'm blessed. I'm very blessed to have the trust of the people and been here this long and see what the future provides.
Yes. And he also went to Cole Park Senior High, just like me.
Rams forever.
Yeah, a bunch of you guys went to Cole Park too. So once again, thank you. So we just have a few questions that we're gonna ask him, and we're gonna wrap it up. The first one is about Dolphin Station. We want you to tell our audience a little bit more about Dolphin Station, how much it's gonna cost, when it's gonna start off, and all of those things.
This is one of those things that perseverance is very important. When you know of a need, and that need is a great need. And what is that need? It's transportation to a lot of people. It's not easy to go from West Dade, where we live, all the way to downtown every day. You're looking at an hour and sometimes an hour plus due to an accident or whatever. And I've been trying to find solutions for many, many years since I've been in office here in the county. So it's going to look approximately 17 years I've been trying to find solutions to get this going. It's not been easy, but finally, we built what they call right now the Dolphin Station. It's a park and ride. It's right on the other side of the turnpike, on the other side of Dolphin Mall. Some of you have looked at it and said, what the heck, that's been there for over a year, and it hasn't been able to really function. And it's true. And the reason why it doesn't function, because the primary function is for people to park their car there, get on a bus, and go through a special lane, which
Bus only lane.
Exactly, and for buses only and for first responders to go through that lane and cut right through traffic and end up in downtown and vice versa on their way back.
Okay.
So this is important, but unfortunately, due to some in the state and that basically with MDX have had their arguments for the last year or so. This project has been kind of slowed down and put on standby. That's why you'll see that station has been there all this time, because that's the primary use of it. Everything will function once that is done. And we're looking at a positive, and the positive is really now in the middle of March that we should have, even the lanes aren't totally marked yet, but we're moving on and we're going to get these buses in and out. And those of you that sit in traffic now don't have to sit in traffic. Now you could be organizing on the way in, doing emails or texting or whatever you want legally, because you're on the bus. Notice I said legally. So it's a good thing, Andre, and I look forward to that happening. It's a dream of mine. It's something I fought hard for. And then from there, it's also going to be going to FIU, to the airport, and many other places. So keep in touch. It's going to happen, and it's going to be very soon.
Guys, be on the lookout. March is very close. And it's going to be a bus only from the western side to downtown Miami.
And vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to ask you now, what are your thoughts on the SMART plan and how it connects Dolphin Station to the rest of the county, and what are your thoughts moving forward with the east to west corridor?
The SMART plan is a plan that a good colleague of mine labeled it that way. Is Steve Bobo, he basically was in charge of committee for transportation. Okay. And I've been very supportive of this SMART plan. I've actually, like every one of my colleagues, we've designed our version of it. Because we're trying to get transit and you all to be moved from one place to another through mass transit. The issue is, unfortunately, really, we're kind of spoiled. We all want to be in our car. We all want to have that freedom of going and coming back when we want, and so on. And then some of you are saying, and I could basically hear you say that, hey, we don't have a bus, or we don't have this, this is why the SMART plan was created, to try to get those corridors that are important, like this east to west, the south, the north, the wraparound from the west to the south and to the north, and other corridors to, like Bailing, to go into Miami Beach from downtown. All that is extremely important, and that's where the SMART plan comes into play. Okay. In doing so, I recently created in our county was the P3 unsolicited proposal law, which took us about 2 years to get this fine-tuned, but now it's up and mobile and it should be working. What that P3 is all about is that we could use other people's money to then do major projects that then, of course, nobody's gonna put their money to just give money away, but then through whatever level of repayment we use as a government, they'll get it, but with proportional down the road.
So P3, you mean public-private partnerships?
Exactly. And, awesome. And unsolicited proposals, that's the new level. So the SMART plan that lights up all these corridors, that tomorrow, maybe with God's help and a lot of wisdom of the future, people might be in office like yourself and many others, that could do that job, could find the funding, and the government, our federal government, could help get the funding that we need to put maybe light rail, monorail, people type mover, and we got to find a way, because see, it's not just installing these things, it's the OEM, it's the operation of these, the maintenance that is extremely expensive, and it's something that we've been working on for quite a while. So the SMART plan is something I support wholeheartedly, because it's a combination of all of us working together, and I really congratulate my colleague Sevan Bobo for actually labeling and trying to put it out there, so we move forth on something in our community.
That's awesome. He's actually a future confirmed guest for the State of Miami podcast. He's going to be
outstanding. Steve, you see this? Remember, I gave you a little plug on this one. Definitely.
So my follow-up question is: so to encourage more affordable housing, do you think P3 will be involved in Miami-Dade County?
It's going to be a huge part of it. Okay. It already kind of is. Okay. There's people coming to the table already with projects. Look, affordable housing has become unaffordable housing.
Exactly.
Young men and women are unfortunately looking elsewhere to elaborate their careers, because the cost is unbearable to some, and I get it. I have daughters that got married, and some are saying that it's getting harder and harder, and that's great, because I get that firsthand knowledge. So when you say affordable housing today is somewhere around 300,000,
exactly,
that would have been a major gasp of air for a lot of people years ago. But you have to have two people working hard full time to basically try to make it in a normal household to try to get that done. So we not only look at affordable housing, we got to really look at every time affordability of housing. We have to take that to the very level that could fit for all. And I'm trying to say that in a very respectful way. You have people right now living in trailer parks those trailer parks are being sold for what a version of affordable housing is, but is it really affordable for the people that, and it's not, let's face facts. So we need to look at the very affordable type housing to the affordable, or to the business housing as they call it, because you always hear police, fire, and nurses or work class housing, but we got to think of those people that are work class housing too, that maybe don't get the kind of salaries that others do. So that's where I'm working on, and in the time that I have left as God willing as commissioner, that's one of my key focus points that I'm working on very hard with my people, not only in my office but in the county, to find ways to get more housing out there for everybody.
For sure. Awesome. So during your time as mayor of Sweetwater, like back in the early 2000s, when I think I was like 8 years old, I remember.
Young buck.
Yeah, young buck. We had a really bad storm and it flooded everything. And I remember I have flashbacks of me saying to the people driving with my family, suave, which means slow in Spanish, because every time a car would pass by, the wave would come in.
The famous wave.
Yeah, so I remember that you did it.
It was you have them as flashbacks, I have them as nightmares.
Nightmare.
I saw nightmares because, I had to deal with something where I did not even know where I was going to get $1 to help out our citizens. So we fought hard. We went to Washington and we did everything we needed to do. I got in people's faces. I did the first sit-in in James Lee's office until he saw me, which is the FEMA director. And with that, we got promised in our community over I think it's $750 million that we were able to allocate $400 and some odd $1 million to do projects in our community. That today, those projects have stopped flooding in our community, but it hasn't just been those projects and the pump system that I became known as the flood pump man.
The comprehensive street drainage project.
Exactly. Well, this guy's good. And so with that said and done, we finished those projects, but those projects didn't come easy. A lot of suffering. A lot of people lost a lot. Lives were lost. 2 children died because of electrocution. I'll never forget that as long as I live. Other people suffered very great losses too. But people prevailed, and we prevailed as a city and as a community, because we worked hard, we worked together, and we banded together. And I gave my word to so many that I wasn't going to let that word go by. And today, it's actually it's almost non-existent. But every time I see a storm coming in, I'm calling South Florida Water Management to find out if where the water levels are, and I'll go on and see the trajectories on the computer, and to see where we're at C5 and many other intersections, and I mean C4 on T5. Excuse me, see the lingo there, and we need to continue to make sure that the parks do not raise the water levels like in the past. And when I mean parks, I mean the U.S. park system. So that what created the problem in the first place. So that's been part of history, but the future is, I think it's very bright. I think that the negatives that we faced in the past, we just got to make sure that they're not forgotten. And that we keep a vigilant eye on the things that have caused us a lot of damage in the past, and just continue to find and work things that could bring positives in the future.
So, like projects like those, what other steps do you think we can take to combat climate change for the entire county?
Climate change is something when it wasn't popular and nobody knew about it. I was sitting in an ecosystem task force, and on that ecosystem task force, I basically got a lot of knowledge as to what the water levels were, how the water, parts per billion, many other things, mod waters. I got to get a lot of knowledge of what this whole system was about, and how the aquifer is the filter of the water, how the Everglades is such a beautiful and wonderful thing, that is one of the greatest things that we have in our nation and in the world, and how important it is to take care of it. So sea level rise is something that's real. It's something that's it's been gradually happening. I don't know about the time sets and a lot of things a lot of people say back and forth. The scientists definitely have come across saying that eventually it's going to happen. It's still ways away, but we need to prepare. We need to get ahead of things, and we're trying to do that. We see the tides getting stronger and stronger every day. Yeah, the red tide seems to come more often, but we are looking at that as a government, and I don't care where you're at on the issue is real, and we just have to be on top of it.
Awesome. And then just to wrap it up, this is my final question. I saw that last week you greeted President Trump as he came into Miami. You along with Mayor Jimenez and Commissioner Bogle. So there's a phrase that everybody says is called "all politics is local," right?
Yes.
So my question to you is, what do you think the county can do to encourage people, young and old, to be more involved and knowledgeable about local politics? Because pretty much that's what affects us the most, right?
You know, when the commander-in-chief of a country, whether you like him or not, invites you to greet with him and just share a couple of minutes talking an issue,
It's definitely an honor.
it's definitely an honor. And you know, I've met with many heads of states in my tenure that I've been an elected official. And recently I met with 7 different presidents. In the swearing in Guatemala of its new president. I was invited there because I've handled the international market for quite a while and the international relationships. So I've been blessed to be able to see how different people do different things. And I've also been impressed, to answer your question, how the younger generations are taking more interest in the political realm. Because they understand that politics is everywhere.
Definitely.
Politics is in church, it's in your house, it's in your club, it's in a game that you play.
Yeah, your basketball
A
team.
game, a basketball game,
School,
in school, everywhere you turn around, it's
sure.
political. And believe me, it is. So, but the one thing that doesn't change is you have a governing factor in life, and usually the government is that factor that controls the norms of those laws and those issues and so on. So the more the younger people get involved and know that by getting involved, they change process or they include or improve process, I think that our country continues to be the greatest country in the world. And I think that's happening more and more as young people get the knowledge out. You got a great instrument. We're using it today.
Sure.
And Alejandro,
Social
you're basically, you know, you're stepping out and being a pillar on that issue. You're bringing us to the point where we're able to discuss and deal with these issues with you. So it is a great thing, and I think one that leaders like you are going to be doing great in the future, and us younger guys, as we go forth in our life, we're here to advise and help as much as we can.
Awesome.
So with that,
thank you so much.
I thank you for this great opportunity.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
And
it.
you should have seen him when he was younger.
Yeah.
Still a firecracker.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you,
I appreciate
my
your
friend.
time. And that right there concludes episode 2 of the State of Miami podcast with Commissioner Jose Pepe Diaz. I just wanted to say one last thing. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, Gianna Bryant, and the rest of the victims from the helicopter accident in California. The rest of this year will be dedicated to Kobe Bryant's memory and his legacy of the Mamba mentality. With that said, see you on episode 3.